Okay, I think we're live. Let's see. Um, we'll give just a minute for people to hop on. Erik Aude, thanks for joining us, man. I'm sorry to interrupt your waffle hour. What's going on there?
Just eating Eggos. Actually, Eggos and banana for breakfast.
What is it, noon there? Sorry to get you out of the crack of dawn, man. I didn't realize I was getting you out of bed.
No. I've been up early. I've been up for a while. I'm trying to buy a house right now, or I'm possibly buying a house in Atlanta. So I had my brother go and send me videos of it and talk to the realtor, and he had me up at around 8:30 this morning. So no worries.
So are you going to move to Atlanta, or are you going to have like an investment property there? I know there's a lot going on in the industry community, and a lot of actors are moving out there because there's so many opportunities there.
I think I've lived in LA my whole life, and I don't like it here anymore. I like to, and in Atlanta you get so much more for your buck. What I pay for rent in LA, I can own a really nice house with a lot of property and still have money in my pocket out in Atlanta. And there's a lot of work in Atlanta. But I don't, this COVID thing is kind of really just shaking the system up. I don't see Hollywood surviving this. I don't. I mean, how can they film anything? How can they film anything within the next year and a half? All it takes is the first douchebag getting on set and claiming they got sick from unsafe conditions. No insurance company is going to insure any movie or TV show right now. I mean, and if they do, it's going to be so cliquish, especially for stuntmen. If stuntmen thought it was hard before, man, it's going to be ridiculously hard. They're going to use like the same 3 to 4 guys for every single project because, you know, they know that they're not infected or claiming to know they're not infected. It's if I was ever thinking about moving, the COVID-19 has completely made it more realistic for me.
Yeah. I don't know if I can picture Los Angeles without Erik Aude living there. Because you've lived in that house for what, at least 10 years now.
15.
15.
Oh.
So since you talked about the industry, what do you think? How will Georgia be able to get away with it when LA's not? I mean, is it because LA is just being so much more strict about saying we're going to have the whole city locked down for 3 more months, and Georgia's already opening back up?
Well, California's stupid. Yeah, California's stupid. I mean, every other state's opening back up. Florida right now, they were the last to close and the first to open up, I think. And it's funny because they have like almost 2,000 deaths, and yet they've got bigger population than New York, which is still under quarantine. It's a common sense thing. It's funny that the states that are opening up actually have less deaths happening than the states that are staying closed. So regardless of what happens, I think the ramifications of keeping us all closed and locked down is way, way, way worse from people's mental health, for people's financial status. I mean, what's going to happen when everyone survived? They lose their businesses, they lose their homes, they lose their jobs, they lose everything they ever saved up and worked hard for. People are going to start killing themselves in masses and being desperate. I mean, you got the idiots here in California releasing all these gang members and criminals out of jail, and then arresting people for going surfing or going to the damn park. You know, it's backwards here. It's completely backwards here. I remember back in the 90s when I'd be filming downtown LA, Skid Row was just Skid Row. That's where you didn't want to go. Today, Skid Row is everywhere. It's everywhere. You can't go down the street without seeing homeless encampments everywhere and tent city and people. It's funny. No one ever wants to address the real problem. They always want to say, oh, mental health. Oh, no, it's not mental health. It's douchebags who completely, take advantage of the system, which is, oh, I don't have to do anything, but I can claim whatever and people will give me stuff. Hard workers in California don't get rewarded. It's the lazy people in California that get rewarded again and again. And anyone who says different doesn't understand how the laws of common sense work. It sucks in California now. I've seen this state just get worse and worse and worse. I can go on forever, man, but
no, I love it. And that's one thing. If you're just tuning in and you don't know Erik, you're not going to get black and white double speak with Erik. He's going to call like he sees it. And that's what's so great about him.
Oh yeah. It's funny. Like maybe like a month and a half ago, I commented on a Instagram video of a cop who was being a dipshit. Like my girlfriend, her brother and her brother-in-law, and a lot of her family are all police officers. And I've got a lot of cousins that are like CHP and highway patrol, but her family is like in the Blue Brothers out in Jersey. And so she understands it firsthand, but so I definitely back the Blue. And I know that not everyone is great, but also not everyone is bad, which is what the media always wants you to think. So a couple months ago, I commented on a guy who pulled over someone, and I didn't see how it started, but the cop was asking questions that, it's none of his fucking business. Like he was asking the guy questions like, why are you here? Who's that, your girlfriend? And all that stuff about, it was a bad cop. All I said was, you know what? Whenever I get pulled over, and I've been pulled over many times, I've had guns drawn on me. I had guns drawn on me on the 405 because I was driving 101 miles an hour. That was when I was 17. I had guns pulled on me when I was driving out to Vegas back in 2006, just because I was going 90 miles an hour, which is ridiculous. I've had to get spread eagle a few times, and just because I had a case of mistaken identity. So I had a gun put to my head by a cop up in Tahoe because I was pretending to drink a beer just to fuck with my friend one time. And the cop thought I was fucking with him. And I said, I was just doing a joke. And I didn't explain that the joke was for my friend, not the cop I didn't see. So the cop put the gun to my head and he says, oh, what? I'm just kidding. And I was 15 years old when that happened. So yes, not all cops are great, but not all cops are bad. So this is all I wrote. I wrote, when I get pulled over, I keep my mouth shut. I take the ticket and I fight it in court. That's all I wrote. And then people just started jumping on, or like, that cop had no right for this and that. And then, and I'm like, you know what? It's called common sense. You can either make a situation worse by opening your fucking mouth, or you can just say, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Have a good day, sir. And live and fight it another day. I don't care to be pulled out of my car and batoned and, get late for wherever I'm supposed to be, probably to a movie theater or something else. And then my girlfriend's going to jump on me for, where the fuck were you? Then I'll tell her, well, I was being batoned in the last 3 days. I was having to fight to keep my asshole a virgin still. And my girl won't care. She'll be like, nope, you just didn't want to come meet my mother. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But that's the internet. People just love to fight. People love to fight. And you know what? I take this approach nowadays, unless I'm bored and I have time. If someone wants to fight with me on the internet, I'm just like, no, you're right. They'll tell me 2 + 2 is 11. I'm like, you're absolutely correct. It is 11. Good job.
That's what I'm trying to say. You're just a poor misunderstood choir boy. You were probably late to church all those times. It was a big misunderstanding. But and what cracked me up, and we'll get to some of the other things. But when one of your cases was featured on Locked Up Abroad, the Pakistan issue, and you have all these haters coming out, you would tell them where you live, like, come, you want to fight? Here's where I am.
I don't think I'd give my address out, but I mean, yeah, no one's ever. Okay, look, I did the show Locked Up Abroad back in 2011. Terrible idea. I wish I didn't do the show. Locked Up Abroad wanted me to be on their show ever since season 1. Back in 05, I think it was 05. Yeah, 05, I got contacted by Locked Up Abroad. And then they sent me a bunch of videos to watch to give it an idea of what their show was all about. But all their videos had one thing in common. Everyone on their show was guilty. They were all guilty. Like people who were just greedy or really hard up for their luck and had nothing going for them. So they took a chance and they got caught drug smuggling and everything. And I didn't feel bad for any of these people because they took a risk and they got caught. If you're going to, do something illegal and get caught, sorry, but you took a chance, you got caught. But I was absolutely innocent. And I was like, I don't want to fucking be flopped in with all those people. And they're like, well, but they all went through the same thing as you did. I'm like, yeah, but they deserve to go through it. I didn't. So for years and years, I told Locked Up Abroad to fuck off. I wasn't interested. And then I started to get my acting and stunt career back. It took me a while to start building my career back again. It took me a long while. When I left, when I was, I don't know. I'm just kind of jumping all over the place, but I don't know what your viewers know, but I was locked up in Pakistan. I spent 3 years in jail for a crime I did not commit. I became a lawyer and I got myself out. But before I went to jail, I was a full-time working actor and stuntman. I wasn't just someone as a waiter who got a job once and then I'm calling myself. No, I was paying all my bills as an actor and a stuntman. I wasn't doing any other job other than acting and stunts. When I was arrested, I was reoccurring on 3 different TV shows, and I had just finished a movie. I had a new pilot that I was going to be the lead on, a WB pilot called 360, where I played this asshole race car driver, who was just a chauvinistic pig. It was great. It was going to be such a fun role. And then I had a movie lined up, so I had all kinds of good things working for me when I went on this trip and I would end up getting arrested for unknowingly smuggling opium. Now, when I spent 3 years in jail in Pakistan, and when I got out, I couldn't get back into any work because I was too old. I was 24, about to turn 25, and in Hollywood, that's over the hill. Whereas I was able to play every single bad guy high school guy and bad guy college guy. And now I was considered over the hill, and everything kind of went towards reality TV. Like when I left, the only reality TV show on that I knew of was Survivor. When I got back, reality TV had just taken over. It was all reality TV. And I got jobs here and there, like little co-stars, bit parts and everything. But it took me a couple of years to finally just start working again. And it was in 2010 where I did a guest star on the show, The Event, that Locked Up Abroad saw that episode and said, hey, this guy's actually a good actor. And they came back to me for season 6 and said, what if we let you play yourself? And I was like, well, now you're barking up the right tree. So I'm the only idiot to ever play themselves on the show. But the problem with the show was they took a 13-hour rushed interview of my whole life. Like I told them, I flew out to London to go give them this interview. And for 13 hours, I just told them everything that happened. And they edited it so they only took out all the exciting stuff. They didn't tell who I was, how I was able to survive and adapt and endure. All they did was show like the fights and the tortures, and that's it. And so when people watch the show, and unfortunately the average person, when they watch a show like Locked Up Abroad, they put themselves in the person's shoes, like how they would handle it. And most people are just pieces of shit who've had a pretty good life, whether they claim it or not. Everyone has a story. Everyone's had a bad day or a bad upbringing. I was run over by a bus. I've had over 50 surgeries. I'm the first person on earth to have their urethra severed or reconnected. I'm not supposed to be alive. I was supposed to die many, many, many times. I've drowned twice in my life. I was told I'd never walk again. I have a record in California for the most tackles for a defensive end that stands to this day at 147. I'm very proud of that. Absolutely proud of that. I became a stuntman and a working stuntman. I was stronger than anything. I was a gym rat. And when I went to jail, if anyone was built for prison, it was me, unfortunately. And in jail, where most people would have been crying in someone's bitch, I was having a great time running poker games. I won a boxing tournament in jail.
We'll get to all that. I want to stick around. We're going to get to how Erik ended up on death row in Pakistan as an innocent man. But I want to start first. You're from LA. You grew up in LA. What were you like as a kid? And how did you end up wanting to be an actor?
I didn't want to be an actor. I wanted to be a stuntman. Always wanted to be a stuntman. As a kid, 5 years old, I would ride my bike off the roof. I would do some crazy stuff. I would throw myself downstairs. I would get hit on purpose by my neighbors' cars. Like the older kids in the 80s. People like I was the kid. I was the crazy kid. Fall out of the trees, jumping into the trash cans. I wanted to be a stuntman more than anything, and I didn't know how to become a stuntman. Well, my mom and her boyfriend moved us up to the Antelope Valley in right after second grade. That was in '88. And the Antelope Valley we were in a small housing tract, and there was nothing but desert all around us. I ended up getting run over by our school bus because we had a substitute bus driver who she didn't clear the bus. I got caught under the back two rear wheels, and my pelvis was shattered. I wasn't supposed to live through the night. I wasn't supposed to live through the week. I was told to never walk again. I had a colostomy bag and a catheter. I'm the first person on earth to have their urethra severed and reconnected. All this experimental surgery that was done on me has been learned and is in doctors' history books to teach, and everyone else learned from my pain. I had to endure just years and years and years of pain because of what happened to me. I was in a wheelchair for 2 years. But because I was so young and still growing, I think that's what really helped me heal from everything to where I can be somewhat normal. Like I still feel pain to this day because of what happened to me as a kid. It'll never go away. And what better way to capitalize on always feeling pain than to be a stuntman? And I never took no for an answer. I would pay money out of my own pocket to go to weekend acting studios. And I remember the first person I was in an acting class with was this woman named Bonnie Jones, who her claim to fame was as an extra in the movie Teen Witch. And I thought it was so cool. I was the only, there's like 3 of us in this class doing a McDonald's commercial auditions for camera. And it was $10 every time I paid for this class. And as a 10-year-old kid, that's a lot of money. And I would take any kind of class or workshop I could do. And it wasn't until it wasn't until 92 I got my first job. I was in a movie with Christina Applegate and Peter Berg called Across the Moon. It went straight to a trash bin. I don't think anyone's ever seen it. But it was great. I got to be on set. I got to play Nerf football with Kelly Bundy, when I was only 12 years old. I got photos on set. And it was very cool that I didn't feel so small anymore, Antelope Valley is where you go to just give up on your dreams, or if you're a sex offender or a meth head, that's where you go. The Antelope Valley is where you go to just, die. That's how I look at it. I hated living in the Antelope Valley so much that all I would do was study my ass off. Like I didn't half-ass my studies. I was in my books all the time. I was at the gym all the time, and I just wanted to get back down to LA. Well, I found an agent when I was 16 and started auditioning, and I started booking little parts here and there, like always the big guy, always the dumb jock. And I still didn't know how to get into stunts, but I always got a lot of physical roles. And when the stunt coordinators would call me and ask for my sizes, I wouldn't give them my sizes because I wanted to do all my own stunts. In the industry, that's a big no-no because the stuntman and the actors are like 2 different groups. And
right.
You're either one or you're the other. Well, unfortunately, I couldn't be one. The only way I could become a stuntman was to be adamant about doing all my own stunts. So when all the other actors would come off set and we were playing football or hockey or wrestling or whatever, I'd stay on doing all my stunts to the very end. And I remember I was doing the show called Scrubs, not the hospital show, but it was a movie of the week, and we were all football players, and all the actors took off and all the stuntmen came on set, and we were just playing full-on contact football, and I was out there leading the charge, playing nose tackle and just cracking guys. It was so much fun. And the director comes over and goes, wait, were you out here the whole time?
So great. Well, and I want to talk about your documentary. That's great. But in that documentary, you said that when you were a kid, that you're the kind of kid the other parents kept their kids from. So you kind of had a chip on your shoulder already. Where did that come from?
Oh, I'm the youngest of 6 boys. I was run over by a bus, but I had a terrible upbringing. None of my brothers grew up with me. And when you're the youngest, no one really shows you any affection or love. They kind of let you do your own thing. So I always hung out with the older kids. I would get in fights all the time just to impress people, I guess, when I was in first and second. But then when I got run over by a bus in 3rd grade, I was known as Pancake Boy. Everyone made fun of me. I was just a punchline for everyone. And so but I had a mouth on me. I had such a sarcastic sense of humor. I mean, my sense of humor was molded from sneaking into the living room at 3 or 2 in the morning and watching movies like Caddyshack, or Night Patrol, any kind of Police Academy. And I love the smart ass sense of humor. And so I had a mouth on me. So when people would talk shit to me in junior high, I would talk shit back, and I got the shit beat out of me all the time. But you couldn't hurt me worse than I've ever been hurt. So yeah, I'm on the ground still talking shit while everyone's laughing while I'm getting stomped on and beat up. And I'm still just making everyone laugh around me as I'm ooh.
No, you've always been like that since I've known you. I remember when you showed up to one of my poker tournaments, you're walking the red carpet, and the other celebrity started booing you good naturedly, and somebody's like, "Make them stop! That's so rude." I'm like, "That's music to Erik's ears. He loves that."
that was right. We did that was at Commerce. Everyone started. I think that's the one. There's been a few times.
Yeah, you just flipped them off. And what about your business?
No. Well, here's the thing. People think everyone hated me, but that's not the case. All right. The case is, that was a celebrity invitational.
Yeah.
And I invited 60 plus of those celebrities to to that particular charity. Now, these are people who played at my house, who played at my poker games, who I'm friends with, have lunch with. And so when I come in the room, everyone knows me, like knows me. It's not like, oh, there's Erik Aude, let's all boo him. No, these were my friends booing me because that's my personality. Like, trust me, everyone booing me everyone who's booing me was a friend.
Yeah.
And so it was just funny. But
yeah,
people actually saw that. People have heard that and be like, man, Erik, you're hated. I'm like, no, I'm not. These are my friends that were booing me. It's honestly, I was flattered.
No, that's what I said. It was music to your ears. But and we'll get back to some of your poker stuff now. So as you got hit by the bus and you had kind of the rough upbringing, and you started having some success. You did the movie Dude, Where's My Car? And that's when you were working at the gym where you met the infamous Ray. Can you walk us through how you're working at the gym and how this Ray came into your life?
Ray was one of my clients. All right. As I was a nighttime manager, but I was also a personal trainer. So a lot of people, would come in and I'd have to show them how to properly use the weights and what kind of exercises to do to accomplish whatever goals they had. I had a lot of people like that. Ray just happened to be one of them. And when you work out with someone, often you get to know them, no matter who they are. If you work out with someone 3-4 times a week, you guys are going to not just talk about working out. You're going to talk about life, girls, businesses, jobs, play. You talk about everything. And Ray became one of my friends. And after 9 months of knowing him, I ended up working for him. And he was recruiting people at the gym to travel around the world, importing expensive leather goods and paying them for it. A lot of people worked for this guy. A lot of people worked for him. And I would be the one that found out the hard way that we were all being used as dupes, not mules. Mules understand that they are smuggling something illegal. Dupes have no idea. We thought it was a legit job of importing expensive leather samples back into the U.S., claiming them as our own so that we could beat the import tax, when really what we didn't know was in the lining of the suitcase was narcotics. So by us thinking that we're beating the import tax, like that was a bad, like we were worried that it would get confiscated. And if it gets confiscated, we won't get paid. That was the worst case scenario. Like there was no jail talk whatsoever. That was never in the back of my mind if I might actually go to jail for bringing in leather samples. It was basically a magician saying, hey, look at this hand while he's doing all the work with here. I've come to the conclusion that a murderer will tell everyone he's a thief if it keeps everyone's attention off of them being a murderer. So bottom line, we were being used as dupes. I was the one that found out the hard way. Locked Up Abroad approached me. I did my own episode. Locked Up Abroad fucked up my story. They crammed it into 48 minutes, only told the exciting stuff. And because of that, I had to go and make my own documentary because I was just getting so much fucking hate on the internet. I was getting death threats like every couple days, if not every day, from people all over the world. The problem with the show Locked Up Abroad is it's very popular. National Geographic is a worldwide network. So it's in every country and every language. And when people in other countries watch this shit, they go, oh, this fucking American and he's full of shit and he's a liar. So, to make their day better, they get on the internet, they come and they find me and they start talking shit because everybody's 7 feet tall on the internet. Everybody. I promise you this, though. This is amazing, though. After doing Locked Up Abroad, which is 2011, to this day, not one person has come and said shit to my face yet. Not yet. I mean, I thought for sure it would have happened a long time ago, but not yet. And now I'm 40, and I still look forward to the day that some guy has the balls to come and say anything to my face. But the good thing about my new documentary, which is called 3 Years in Pakistan, which is the only one I ever promote, because it tells the whole story. Locked Up Abroad only tells 1 year, 2 months of my story. 3 Years in Pakistan tells the whole story, how I got there, how I am the way I am, and what I had to endure while I'm there. And people who have watched Locked Up Abroad, who hated me, who then watched 3 Years in Pakistan, came back and did a 180. And they've apologized to me. They said that it was really inspiring. I had no idea you went through this. It makes so much more sense now. So if you're going to watch anything, watch 3 Years in Pakistan, the Erik Aude story. It's free on Amazon Prime. You can get it on iTunes. It's on about 30 other streaming platforms. It's not on Netflix. Oh, well.
Yeah. I watched it 2 days ago and it's fantastic. And so when Ray approaches you to take these leather goods to other countries, like you didn't just blindly do it. You talked to a family friend that was in the FBI. Is that correct? Just to see if this is on the up and up.
It was okay. My mom had a friend who was in the FBI. Not the FBI. My mom had a friend who was in law enforcement. And we told him, like, he even called me on the phone and asked me the details. And I told him the whole story. He goes, Yeah, well, people do this all the time, and he's like, they do it with rugs, they do it with like, he kept going towards rugs, and like, I don't know, I want to say ivory tusk or whatever, but he says, bottom line, it's his exact words. I said, will I go to jail for this? He goes, it's a moral crime. It's like jaywalking. He compared it to jaywalking. That's like the main thing I remember. So when he compared it to jaywalking and he took prison completely out of it, I wasn't worried at all. Like, that was the whole thing. I was like, boy, I go to jail? Like, if there was any chance at all that I might go to jail for importing leather goods and claiming them as my own, there's no fucking, I wouldn't even have done that. I would not have done that. You know, it wasn't worth it. But when I heard that there's no chance of going to jail, and then the only downside that if the leather goods did ever get confiscated, I just wouldn't get paid. But for me, the trip was the payment, because originally these trips were to Turkey, and then I go to Sweden, and then I come back.
So how much? So he was paying you and picking up all your expenses to go on these trips, and you've
Not
done
all
a handful of them.
Not all my expenses. He paid for the flight and the hotel, but I had to pay for food and like if I bought souvenirs. But still, flight and hotel was payment for me. I mean, I pay to travel. I love to travel, and I still travel to this day. So a free trip and a free hotel in a place I've never been before, it's, you know, kind of enticing. And for a 19-year-old kid, fuck yeah. I mean, if I can go back in time and tell myself, hey, this guy's a dipshit, I would beat that motherfucker, drive out to the middle of the desert, dig a hole, and bury him. And I would sleep like a baby at night. I wouldn't give a fuck, because I did the world a good thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is what it is.
Live and learn, and again, I want to walk through this because a lot of people watching this aren't familiar with their story at all. So I want to make sure they know all the details. So you've done a couple of trips to Turkey, and you're making a little bit of money. You're a young up and coming actor, and this was an adventure, making a little bit of money, and then and this was this around the time of 9/11?
It was right before. It was the two trips I went on before was 2000, and then 2001, and then 9/11 happened, and then I went on a trip February, right after 9/11. It wasn't supposed to be my trip though. It wasn't supposed to be my trip. It was supposed to be my brother Peter's trip, because I wanted to keep this opportunity open, so I always encouraged it. You know, like, you know how like I invited you to a poker site and whatnot, something cool. I invite everyone around. I'm a very people person. You know, I invite people to things. So I encourage this job to everyone, my friends, my family, my mothers, my brothers. Like, I thought it was such a great opportunity that I wanted other people to enjoy it. I really did. Now, I was working so much as an actor and a stuntman that I had no time to go anywhere whatsoever. So my brother Peter takes the trip, because he was, at the time, $800 would have been a lot of money to him. And so he took the trip, and then literally right before he was supposed to leave, he calls me up and tells me that he's not going. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not going? And he says, well, it's to Pakistan. I was like, no, it's not. What are you talking about? So I had always encouraged Turkey and Sweden. I knew nothing about Pakistan. Now, I still vouched for my brother, and then Ray gave me a guilt trip. And Ray was a friend. You know, he was a good friend of mine at the time. Yeah. He wasn't just some guy I knew. No, he was a good friend of mine. So Ray gave me a huge guilt trip that I've already spent all this money. I'm going to lose it all. I set up everything. Your brother, you know, if he doesn't go, it's going to look really bad. And I felt bad, you know, because when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I always do what I say I'm going to do. Now, I said, Peter will go. I vouched for Peter. I felt obligated now. So I didn't want to leave Ray hanging. So I took the trip. I was working. I was fucking working. I had just finished the Andy Dick show. And then when I took Ray's trip, I had auditioned for the show Arliss, and I was going to be a guest star tennis player on the show. And it was just sucked, because I would have made $5,000 on that show, but I had already agreed to a trip. So I turned down $5,000 because I didn't want to flake, because my word means that fucking much to me. So I took a trip to only make $800, and it ended up costing me 3 years of my life. I had just being loyal, staying to my word would cost me 3 years of my life.
Well, so on the trip, on the trip to Pakistan, it's just like your normal trip to Sweden or to Turkey, but you get there and you're going through the line, and what happens?
The line coming back?
No, through security. Yeah, coming back after you were delivered the leather goods. It happened like when you got there, on the way back.
I mean, I don't want to go too crazy on it, because that's what the documentaries are for, you know. But I mean, I'll give you the key points. I get caught. I get caught at the airport. They tell me they're going to hang me that night. I flip out. I throw a couple guards over the desk. I barricade myself in another room that has no windows. I try to call the embassy, can't call out. A couple of guys from the DEA come in. They talk to me. They don't give a shit that I'm innocent. They don't, in DEA, they say possession's 10/10 of the law. So these guys are fucking with me. They don't care. They just want all my contacts, all my suppliers. Like I've never done drugs. I don't drink. I'm a fucking gym rat. And I'm the last person who would ever be a fucking involved in anything like this. So when they told me they were going to hang me, they were kidding. But it wasn't a good joke because I freaked out and I figured if I'm going to die, I'm going to make my life worth something. So I was just trying to call and warn others because other people were making these trips. I get tortured for information I don't have. And I was, after being there 11 and a half months, I'm offered a deal. Plead guilty, pay the judge off. You're going to get a 2-year prison sentence. And with good behavior and bribes, which is very common in Pakistan, you'll be going home in about 4 months. But I would have had to plead guilty for a crime I didn't commit. And at this time they had already taken everything from me. They took my freedom. They took everything from me. And I wasn't going to let them take the only thing I had left, which was my pride. And I refused to plead guilty for a crime I didn't commit. Now, the embassy was pissed off at me for doing this because they said, you're putting our lives in jeopardy when we come to visit you. And I said, don't visit me. You're not going through this. I'm going through this. And I have to be the one who looks at myself in a fucking mirror. So yeah, I get it. I'm not a happy, people think like you got to be a happy guy all the time and everything. In prison, you can't be a happy guy. You have to be a bastard in prison. Otherwise you're going to be a fish you're going to be taken advantage of. So I had to become a monster in jail to survive. And when it came down to you plead innocent, you can go home, I refused to plead guilty. I chose to stay in prison because I was not going to plead guilty for a crime I didn't commit. And I thought I was going to get death or life, but I only got 7 years. 7 years, I was happy. When I got 7 years, I was so fucking happy. Now, the thing that sucks about Pakistan hates the West so fucking much that they will go out of their way to make the West, any kind of American, look bad in any way or they can. Now, I'll give you an example. In the newspapers, when I was sentenced, I was happy. I was relieved because I was expecting death or life. These guys wrote that I threw myself on the ground and cried like a little girl. Keywords, cried like a little girl in the courtroom. And I was like, that's those motherfuckers, right? I was so pissed off that those guys were saying that shit. But there was an embassy consular guy there who told my mom, which, I mean, he says, no, Erik took it like a man. They were lying. And I was like, oh, well, I was relieved when I got 7 years. So no, there was no crying in that fucking courtroom.
Yeah.
But not only did they do that, they say that I cried like a little girl. They compared me to a guy who had just been executed like a couple weeks before me in Carolina, North Carolina, South Carolina, who had blown up some government building. He was a Pakistani guy who had blown up some government building and he killed like 3 people. I'd have to go and look at my book because I know I did all the research for that. But they said that when he was executed, like lethal injection, he said, Allah is great and smiled. And then they compared me, who only got 7 years, to a little girl crying on the floor. I'm like, these motherfuckers are comparing me to a fucking murderer who, and they're lying about it. You fucking douchebags.
well, initially when they first arrested you, and again, I encourage everyone to go watch the great documentary that Erik put together about the story that goes into much more detail. But I do want to hit some highlights. I mean, it wasn't fun and games when you got there. I mean, there was some torture involved. I mean, they put you through pain.
Yeah, I was tortured. I was tortured for 3 days for information I did not have. They just wanted me to admit the drugs were mine on the 3rd day. The 3rd day, they just wanted me to admit the drugs were mine, and I admitted nothing. So here they were trying to torture me. They were electrocuting me. They were drowning me. They were hanging me up and it's going rocky on me. But you can't hurt me. You can't hurt me. I was run over by a fucking bus. I've had 53 surgeries. I've only known pain my whole life. So what they were doing was like my parents beating me up over the weekend. That's how I looked at it. But it's called physical remand in Pakistan. It's normal, and in the newspapers, people die from physical remand all the time. I think the thing they mostly die from is being drowned because they hold you under a long time. They held me under. I always counted in my head how long they were holding me under, and it always got to around 60 seconds. Like they never really went too much further over a minute. Now I could hold my breath a long, long, long time, and I think that's. I was just lucky in several aspects of it because, like I said before, if anyone was built for prison, it was me.
Mhm. At what point did you, I mean, you went through the torture. Did it hit you like this is serious? I mean, because initially you done the dude, where's my car? And I saw in the documentary, it was kind of a joke, like you were mugging for the cameras, dude, where's my drugs? But at what point did it set in like, man, that I could really be here for a while and you're not going right back home?
I think that, I guess the February, I was arrested February 15th. I guess like the first day in jail, because here I thought I was only going to be there 2 or 3 days at most, because everyone knew what I was doing. So many people were making these trips. I thought, when you're naive, you think the American embassy is all powerful and they'll be there to help you and all that kind of stuff. No, they don't. If I knew then what I knew now, I shit you not, I would tell myself to order a pizza for my one phone call. I wouldn't even call the American embassy. I would order a fucking pizza. I wish, because they don't feed you during interrogation. They don't. They give you like biscuits and chai, which is tea. That's it. And I would have ordered a pizza. I wouldn't have wasted the embassy is fucking useless. If you get arrested in another country, order food and just, man up and get ready to be patient and take your time. I thought I was only going to be there 2-3 days max. When the embassy came, after I'd already been tortured, I've already been in jail I was tortured for 3 days. And then I got brought to the prison. And then the embassy came to see me after I got my welcoming committee in the prison. They said your next court date is in 2 weeks. I was like, 2 weeks? Fuck. And that's when I started to think I was going to be like, Jesus, is going to be forever. And then I went to court and nothing happened. The judge wasn't there. I didn't have a lawyer yet. Every lawyer was trying to get me to sign, but no one would tell me what the case would be, what the game plan would be. They didn't even speak English. People, they knew like words of English, but they couldn't comprehend one fucking word out of me. One lawyer came up to me and was hysterical. I'm in chains. I'm being led through the crowds, and everyone's like up to my shoulders here because they're like really tiny over there. And one lawyer comes up to me, and this guy was like 5'2", and he looked like he was drunk. Like he had this suit on that looked like a Beetlejuice suit because it was so big on him. And he tries to give me this thing. He's like, sign this right here, sign. And I was like, how much are you? He goes, 4 million. And I'm like, rupees, which would still have been ridiculous because $1 at the time was 60 rupees. So this is a $400 case, so it would have been 24,000 rupees. But so 4 million rupees is ridiculous. But I was like, you mean, I said rupees? He goes, this is a death sentence case, my friend. Dollar. I was like, you take check? Even in the terrible, terrible, terrible situation, I was still just fucking, and I was laughing my ass off at every nonsense aspect of it. I was oh my God, you can't make this shit up. This is great. Like I would literally do the Parker Lewis and just look into the camera and be like, and so this is my life. This is where I'm at right now. This is what's happening.
Well, and it was a big international incident. Did you feel like there's no way that I'm going to be stuck here for 3 years for a crime I didn't commit? Wanted to get all this media attention.
I thought I was going to be there I'd be home in a couple of days. I said, you know what, Eric, you're going to be here 2-3 days tops. Enjoy it. Treat it like a fucking, adventure. Just live it up. Eventually you'll be laughing about this. Well, I'm laughing about it. It just
just after the fact. And the details of the case are all in the documentary, which you can get, and we'll talk back. But you ended up going on death row. What was the process to going from trial to death row and that process, which is where you learned how to play poker?
I wasn't on trial. In the prison, the first day in prison, I took on like 12 guys. People, and see, Locked Up Abroad has it looking like I took on the whole prison. No, I didn't take on the whole prison. I took on like 12 guys. These guys are called number darts. Their job is to like welcome you into the prison. They slap you. They take off anything, like a people watch, nice shoes, nice jacket. That's their thing. They get to take whatever of value that they can find on you, and then they put you in a processing barrack. Processing barrack, you're supposed to stay for a couple days until they decide where to put you, whether it's in the foreigner barrack or the hospital or wherever. So I came in swinging because the only thing I ever knew about prison, I'm 21 years old. I was benching 420 pounds. I wasn't like, oh, I went to the gym and benched. No, I was a gym rat. I was strong as fuck. I was a wedge buster in football, and I had a cocky swagger about me. I'd been in more fights already growing up because of being pancake boy, and so fighting was my thing. And And when I came into the prison, the guard was like this. The guard was literally like, and I was just like, open the fucking gate, you know, because I just wanted to get it over with, you know. And I treated it like opening kickoff. I went through these guys so that they couldn't surround me, and I started turning it into one-on-one. And I was dropping these guys. I was dropping them hard. They are not strong over there. It was literally like I hopped the fence at a junior high school and just went to war on the playground. It was kind of amazing, actually.
Well,
So this little guy who was a Mashakti. A Mashakti is a prison worker. A number guards, the guys who do the guards' dirty work. But the Mashakti does the prison, all the prison works. Like they do the chalks, they do the food, they do the errands. So this guy's like 4'10", and he's like la 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 la. And I'm thinking this guy, there's no way he's gonna try to hurt me. But he obviously had a bit of authority with his demeanor, so he goes and grabs my wrist to follow him. And so I follow him after I've laid all these guys out on the floor, and I'm tired. I've just been tortured for 3 fucking straight days. I've only eaten biscuits and chai. And so I'm hungry, I'm tired, and I just want to fucking sleep. He puts me in the processing barrack, and in the processing barrack, like I want to fucking fall asleep, but I can't because I'm just so amped up. It was prayer time. So everyone was over at the mosque, and this is the biggest prison in all of Pakistan. This prison was built in '86. It was only meant to house 1,800 prisoners, but there's over 6,000 prisoners in this prison. So everyone's at the mosque. I'm in the processing barrack. It's empty at the moment, except for someone like sweeping with the broom. And I lay down. I got my boots on. Next thing I know, I hear all the scuffling and everything. And you know when you know someone's in your bubble? All these prisoners were in my bubble. They're like, who are you? And I was like, Eric. And they're like, you're the American? I'm like, nope, Pakistan, born and raised. Been here my whole life, you know? And they're like, no, you're the American. And they show me this fucking newspaper article with my dumbass right on the cover. And I'm like posing with the guards because here I was thinking like, hey, you know, this is going to be a funny picture down the line. That's what I was thinking. It's going to be a funny picture because there's no way once they hear the truth that no. So I'm like, that doesn't even look like me. Now I'm fighting all these fucking assholes. And I feel like the Santa Claus in the movie Gremlins is these guys are on my back. There's too many of them. There's too fucking many of them. I pull out into the balcony outside the barracks. There's a balcony. And I literally throw a guy off the balcony. There's a crowd below. The guy didn't die. Threw him into a fucking crowd. The guards saw what was happening. They started baton charging everyone. I got baton the shit out of them. And they like pushed me to Kasuri. And I would spend my first 5 days in Kasuri. But before the first 5 days with Kasuri, they brought me out of Kasuri to go meet with the embassy. Because the embassy came. This girl came with some guy from the army who was trying to hook up with her, but she wasn't having it. And that guy was talking shit too. But so that's when I learned that I was going to be another 2 weeks is when I was going to be presented in court. I was like, 2 fucking weeks. And then I went back to Kasuri and spent the first 5 days in jail in Kasuri. Yeah.
Well, after all that happened, like at some point, you know, reality had to set in that you're here for a while. Some sort of depression, you know, it's not fun in games. It's not just fighting. Like, what was that like when it really set in that you're going to be there for a while?
I mean, I don't remember exactly when it was that I was like, shit, I guess that day was kind of sucked, you know, 2 weeks in Kasuri sucks because Kasuri is there's no light, you know, you're basically in a closet with no light. The only time you get to see light is when they feed you once a day, which is just a dal, a cup of dal, which is like a lentil soup, and a roti, which is like a tortilla. And that doesn't sustain me. I was 220 when I was in jail. And then I'm eating the same amount as a guy who's only 80 pounds. So it wasn't sustaining. You have to have money to and buy food from the canteen. But in Kasuri, you're being punished, so you can't do any of that stuff. The only time you see light is when they feed you once a day or when they bring you out to beat the bottom of your feet. So the first 5 days, I'm getting the bottom of my feet beat and caned, and I'm in complete darkness and isolation. So yeah, that sucked. I'm sure if I was feeling sad and depressed, it was probably around that time.
No, I mean, that's, did they waterboard back then?
I got waterboarded when I was getting tortured, but when at the prison, they only beat your feet.
Oh.
Or they put you in these fucking pits that are outside too. And they, and you're like in the sun the whole fucking time.
How long did it take for that to become a reality? Like where you settled in and tried to make it normal, you know, where you're going to be there for a while?
I don't remember. I don't remember. I just all I know, I remember thinking to myself, like, I remember when I got through 3 months of it, and I was like, holy shit, I've come 3 months. The first year was the worst. Was the worst year for me because I didn't speak the language. No one liked me. Everyone kept trying to kill me. I was starving. I didn't know how to adjust the situation. I was in so much pain because I got these really bad earaches. Monsoon season is between June to August. And I had these really bad earaches. The embassy doctors came. The embassy doctors were just Pakistani doctors, though, and they put these tubes in my ears and they popped both my eardrums. So being in jail, it wasn't just about being in jail and, being left alone and being sad. I was in so much pain because of my ears that the only time I ever thought about suicide was because of my ears. Like I can handle pain, but it was like having toothaches in your head. And you can't sleep, you can't do anything. It's just so painful. And I was learning the language as quick as possible. I was making flashcards. I was trying, like, I didn't just sit there and feel sorry for myself. I had a routine. I'd wake up, I'd exercise, I'd read everything I could. I was learning the law. I mean, I was talking to any prisoners I could to try to figure out who I'm going to get for my lawyer. And then when so for the first year, it was just learning the situation and adjusting to the situation. And then when I got sentenced, I got sentenced to 7 years. By that time, I had already known I was going to get sentenced by the lower court. I'd always put my hopes into the higher court because the lower court was famous for being known as very greedy, corrupt, and you weren't going to get a fair case there anyways because it's just one judge who Pakistan's very, very corrupt, So the judge originally wanted like $100,000 for my acquittal. Didn't have that kind of money, didn't have access to that kind of money. And then he like stalled my case out forever. And then finally, just the deal was going to be, I pay the judge $1,000. He's going to give me a 2-year prison sentence, but I have to plead guilty. And I still refused to plead guilty. So he gave me 7 years. Now, shortly after that, I was having a really bad episode with my ears. My ears were always just throbbing. And I remember I hadn't slept in days. And so the only thing I could do was just work out until exhaustion. And we had this new guard that was in charge of our cell block. I was in 2 cell at this time. I was on death row for the first 9.5 months, but then a new superintendent came into the prison. And when they do a whole like search, or not a search, but inspection of the whole prison. And when they saw that I was on death row, but I hadn't been sentenced yet, he says, why is he on death row? Take him out of there. They said they can't put me in the barracks because everyone keeps trying to kill me. Like I kept getting stabbed. People kept, someone firebombed my cell. It was just too dangerous to put me in general population. So they put me in 2 cell, which is for like politicians, National Accountability Bureau, prisoners, people who, corruption cases. They weren't like dangerous criminals. And if they were ridiculously rich because it was for the richer Pakistani prisoners. So when they put me on 2 cell, I was locked up in my cell, and we had this new guard named, his name was Bashir, but his nickname was Goldleaf, and Goldleaf is the name of a cigarette brand. And this guy was just fucking with me, talking shit. And by this time, I'm learning the language. I can hear it. I can understand it. And he's calling all Americans dogs. And this is like roughly when we're about to go to, I think we were 2002. Yeah. So we were about to go to war with Iraq.
Okay.
And so it's the West is not like right now we're bombing Afghanistan and all this stuff. So he's calling all Americans dogs, and I just had enough. I said, hey, we may all be dogs, but you're a little bitch. And this guy's an old man. I mean, he looks like he's like in his 60s, but he could probably be in his 40s because they're just, everyone ages a lot at worst out there. And I lost it. I beat the shit out of this guy, and then he went. A couple other guards heard it and tried to help him. And when you lose your temper, you don't care about consequences. Well, I was at that mode. I was like, fuck it. If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna make these guys earn it. And I held like literally the entire guard staff out of my jail cell for almost an hour. They locked up the whole prison while they focused on me. They threw tear gas in. I threw it back. I had a hostage. At one point, I used their own canisters against them. By the time they ripped me out of that cell, they broke every finger on my right hand one by one. They started on my left hand, and when the superintendent came in and asked what was going on, and Bashir goalie said they found drugs on me, that I attacked him, but I understood what he was saying. So I told him, Vojute, and I started speaking Urdu and talking to the superintendent from the ground. And he asked me to stand up and asked me from my point of view what happened. I told him these guys wanted money from me. I told him to fuck off. And he says, I believe you. And he fired Goldleaf right there. And Goldleaf had been in that prison since '86 and supposedly been responsible for the deaths of hundreds of prisoners since he'd been there. And when he got fired, every prisoner in that prison was like, hey, thank you so much. Like, people who hated me one second were trying to give me a hug and call me brother the next, simply because I got rid of a monster for everybody. And after that incident, it was like night and day. You know, the first year and some months was just hell. But after that, prison was very calm and peaceful for me. And it wasn't as bad, you know, as it could have been. It was nice.
So, and this is all covered in this great documentary. Where can people get that are watching now and really interested in hearing the details about your case? It's on Amazon, and where else can they get it?
And they can go on Amazon Prime, look up 3 Years in Pakistan, the Erik Aude story. If they don't have Amazon Prime, it's on iTunes for rent. It's on YouTube Red, on demand, on Vimeo, but it's free on Amazon Prime. So I always, pump it there. And they can find me on Instagram if they have any questions. Like, I made the documentary so that I don't have to talk about it. And the documentary I made was necessary because Locked Up Abroad really, really dropped the ball. And, if you're thinking about doing Locked Up Abroad for your story, I would suggest don't, because the headache that comes with it and the hate that comes from it is not worth it. If you went through, I went through such a bad situation and people just started dogpiling it and trying to make it worse. And, if I had something called feelings, then maybe it would hurt but my documentary was necessary because of Locked Up Abroad.
And kind of in closing, as we close this chapter, I want to be clear, you had a chance to leave early. If you just they wanted you to admit guilt and they would have sent you home earlier, but you wouldn't do it because you didn't want to admit guilt for something that you didn't do that you were innocent of.
Yeah, I know me better than anyone. So I know that if I had pled guilty for a crime I didn't commit, yeah, they would have let me go home, but I probably would have ended up killing myself years later from shame. At the end of the day, I have to look at myself in the mirror.
Yeah. So what do you have anything now you can promote? I mean, other than trying to move to Georgia and get out of Hollywood?
I'll always be part of Hollywood, I think. As long as people are willing to hire me, I'll be going wherever the work is, like I always do. I mean, last year was such a great year for me. I did 25 co-star acting stunt roles last year, which is amazing. And I've had a really good career. I've accomplished my goal. I remember when I was a kid, my goal wasn't to be famous. My goal was just to be successful and enjoy what I did. And I destroyed that goal. And I hope to travel around the world and explore every part of this planet. I hope to work on many more movies and TV shows if and when, the industry opens back up. Regardless of what happens, I'm going to make the most of it, because at the end of the day or at the beginning of the morning, you have a choice on how you handle every situation that comes in front of you. I choose to wake up happy. I choose to go to bed happy. I choose to laugh when something stupid happens, and I choose to learn from all my mistakes, and I guarantee you I've made them all.
Well, that's one thing that I admire about you. I mean, you do make a point to live every day. You're always traveling, you and your longtime girlfriend, Erin, you're climbing pyramids, you're just always on some adventure, and you literally live every day. You don't let any day go by. Do you think being in prison had something to do with that?
Well, I mean, I always wanted to travel before prison. That was the whole point of going on these trips, was because of the traveling. I mean, to Turkey, I'd never been outside I'd only been to a couple states in America, but I'd never been outside America before. So traveling was always something I always wanted to do, because when you go to different parts of the world, it makes the world smaller. And one thing I learned is the universal language is a smile. Everyone hurts, everyone laughs, everyone feels, everyone, has good and bad days. And I've laughed with so many different people from all over the world. It's great. I think there's beauty everywhere if you just go looking for it. Prison prison was great in opening my eyes to what's important in life. You know, like all the little things around us is so important. You know, I always say this, that if everything was taken away from you, you would realize how amazing everything is. This chair that I'm sitting on, this comfortable chair is awesome. When you're in jail and there's no chair and you're sitting on the concrete floor the whole time, you know, I can go inside and grab some nice ice water right now. That's gold. Ice, a toilet, a bed, a pillow, you know, talking to friends, you know, this is all luxury and we never acknowledge it. And, you know, once everything was taken away from me, it was great in the sense of, it was like having, I don't know, a veil just unwrapped from my face. Like I could see how wonderful everything around me really was. And so jail was great in that sense. And now since this whole COVID thing has happened and people are like, how are you handling it? I'm like, this is easy. This is great.
Yeah.
This is still paradise for me.
So, you know, I've known you, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 years, and you always seem like kind of a tough guy to me. I mean, you ride a motorcycle, you know, you work out all the time, but your girlfriend described you as a big softie. You know, you're adopting poodles, you love pets. You know, who's the real Erik Aude?
Yeah. I mean, it's like the saying, if someone calls me an asshole, believe them. And if someone says I'm the greatest person on earth, believe them too. You get the appropriate person, you know. I got a lot of people who I've played poker with. When I play poker, I talk shit. I'm very sarcastic. I lose my cool, and I've rubbed so many people the wrong way, but I don't apologize for it because it's, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not out there trying to make everyone else happy. I'm just simply trying to make myself happy and hopefully not be a jerk in the process. You know, I'd like to leave this place a little bit better than I found it, but I'm not out there to, what's the saying? You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm far from perfect. And I just try to do it all. And if I do it all wrong, then at least I'd rather fail at living life my way than fail at doing everyone else's way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Erik, man, thank you for your time. And again, where do we find your documentary? One last time. It's streaming on Amazon and where else?
Amazon Prime, iTunes, YouTube Red, Vimeo. I've got a nice link on my Facebook page. You can see it on top. That has like 30. It's like just look it up. 3 years in Pakistan, the Erik Aude story. Erik with a K, and you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. Yeah.
And in closing, I saw at the end, and again, you want to go find out the details of the documentary, but you won a $20 million lawsuit against the guy who sent you over there. You expecting to collect that anytime soon?
No, but just to make sure to let him know that in case he were to ever win the lottery, I always make sure. I just renewed that judgment in 2007. 2017. I'll renew it again in 2027 and again in 2037. He's never going to ever be allowed to own anything ever again, as long as I can do anything about it.
Okay. Well, I thank you, Erik, man. I hope to run into you soon, and take care during this quarantine, and I'll see you down the road.
Thanks, buddy. You take care, okay?
Okay, man.